Hi, grade fours. Hope everybody is doing very well. So we will be doing lesson 2 of week 3 today, that is energy and motion. The essential question for this lesson is how the potential energy is different from the kinetic energy. Let's have a look at the learning intention. What are we learning today? I can define and explain kinetic and potential energy with real life example. So, what are the two words? What are the two terms that we will be focusing in today's lesson? Are kinetic and potential. So we have almost covered all of the vocabulary so far, but in today's lesson we'll be focusing on these two terms that are very, very important. That is potential and kinetic energy. So let's have a look at the do now activity. So you're going to do this in your notebook. So it says, read the sentence and select true or false. Energy is the ability to do work. True or false? So here you can pause me and do this part. So energy is the ability to do work. Is true or false? I'm going to discuss this in a live lesson so that I can have a live feedback too. So let's go ahead. So it says read and think. So this paragraph talks about energy and motion. I would like you to pause me right now and spare some time to read this paragraph. What does it talks about? So you can continue to read. So this paragraph talks about energy and motion. So we have discussed these two terms already before. What is energy and what is motion? So energy is the ability to do the work. Because of the energy, you can move things from one place to another. Because of the energy, you can bring any object into motion. That is, any object you can move around and you can bring any object into movement. So, energy is actually the ability to do the work, and because of the energy, you can move the position of an object from one place to another. So, scientists have actually classified energy into two main forms, and the first form is called stored energy, and the other one is energy of motion. So, before I go ahead, another word for stored energy is potential energy, and energy of motion is actually kinetic energy. So, the term itself is explaining you what is the stored energy. Maybe the energy that is saved, not being used, it is already stored somewhere, like you store food in your refrigerator. And energy of motion, that means energy that is in movement. Let's have a look at this photograph. So here you can see an airplane. So airplane has stored energy because it is above the ground. It also has energy of motion because it is moving. So we are going to look in the upcoming slides when the object has a stored energy and when the object has energy of motion, and it is quite very obvious with the term itself. Stored energy, when the object is not moving, it is holding in some energy, and when the object comes into motion, that is kinetic energy. So now I would like you to read these two paragraphs that talks about stored energy, and then we're going to discuss it. So let's read the first paragraph. Energy that is stored inside an object is called potential energy, as I discussed before briefly. When the object is at rest, it is not moving. That means it is having potential energy. So an object with potential energy is not using the energy at that time. When the object has a potential energy, that means at that time the object is at rest. Fine. Instead, the energy is stored in the object and can be used later. So, what happens? Each and every object has a potential energy when it is at rest. And when the object is not at rest, that means that energy comes into motion. And when it comes to in motion, then it is called kinetic energy. So we need to keep in our mind, as we discussed before, about the airplane. When airplane is at rest, so it has a stored energy. That means the energy of the plane is not being used at that time. So when it is not being used, it is having potential energy, and as soon as it starts flying, that stored energy is changed into energy of motion because the airplane is actually moving. So stored energy is the energy when the object is at rest. It is not moving, but it does have energy which can be used when it will come into motion. Fine. So one form of potential energy is present when objects are above a surface. Okay, that means the object is at a good height from the ground or from the surface. The more higher the object will be from the surface, it will have more potential energy. That means a ball resting on a floor will have a less energy as the ball compared as a ball that is sorry the ball that is on the floor will have a less energy as compared to the ball that is resting on the peak of a mountain. So if the object is at a more height from the surface, it will have more potential energy. So objects can also store energy because of their elasticity. Okay, suppose you're jumping, you must have jumped on a trampoline, and when you press down on the trampoline, what happens actually? You start jumping. Okay, it pushes you back up. So when the trampoline, nobody's using trampoline and it is at rest, that means it has a stored energy, it has a potential energy, and as soon as you start using that trampoline, it pushes you back up. And as soon as it pushes you back up, that potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. That means that the compressed spring is releasing its stored energy. That means the stored energy is being transferred into the kinetic energy. That means the potential energy is transferred into kinetic energy. So I just want you to think about this, that compare how a trampoline and a spring change stored energy to energy of motion. I briefly discussed a few seconds back. So after watching this video, you're going to rethink about this trampoline and how the spring changes its stored energy to energy of motion. So here you can pause me and watch this video and rethink about this question and come up with your own observation, and you will be sharing that observation with me in the live session. Moving on to the next, that is energy of motion. As the term describes itself, that this energy is present when the object is in movement, when the object is in motion. So here you can pause me and read this paragraph, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so what is basically kinetic energy or energy of motion? Simply, it is an energy when the object is moving. It is when the object is not at rest. It is in motion. It is moving. Okay, it is just the opposite of potential energy. Potential energy is the energy when the object is not moving. It is at rest. The energy is not being utilized, and as soon as the object starts moving, it the potential energy changes to kinetic energy. So the energy of motion an object has actually depends upon the object's speed. Okay, so the object with a good speed will show a greater energy of motion. Fine, suppose you are riding a bicycle. If you increase your speed, that means you're increasing the energy of motion. That means you are increasing the kinetic energy. And if you slow down, that means your kinetic energy or the energy of motion is decreasing. So your kinetic energy actually depends upon the speed. Okay, so if you stop, then obviously then there is no energy of motion, there is no kinetic energy. If you stop, that means now that kinetic energy has transferred to potential energy because you are not moving. So when you are not moving, the energy is stored, and that means you are not moving, it is potential energy. But as soon as you start riding your bicycle, The potential energy changes to kinetic energy, that is energy of motion. So the energy of motion will definitely increase. That means the movement of your bicycle will definitely increase when you increase the speed, and the energy of motion decreases when you decrease the speed of your bike. That means kinetic energy depends upon the speed of the object. So this video will also help you to have a better understanding to find out the difference between kinetic and potential energy. So here you can pause me and watch this video. So let's have a look at the written task today. So there is a red group, yellow group, and green group, as it was like 3 star, 2 star, 1 star. So as I have said earlier also, you're going to choose a question that you think that you can do it independently on your own. You do not need to do all of the three questions. You will do the question that you think, yes, I have got the potential, I have got that energy to do this question on my own. Okay, so the very first group will, if you're opting for this group, so you have to define potential and kinetic energy with the help of real example and diagram. So in simple words, you have to explain what is potential energy. Like potential energy is the energy that is the stored energy, the energy that is already present in the object, and it is there when the object is not moving, whereas the kinetic energy is the energy of motion. And kinetic energy Kinetic energy is the energy when the object is in movement. Fine, and you have to think about the examples in real life. Where do you see potential and kinetic energy? The yellow group, you have to differentiate between kinetic and potential energy with the help of real example and diagram. So here you are defining and here you are differentiating how these two energies are different from each other, and you have to share a real life example and diagram. The last group has to use a Venn diagram to compare and contrast between potential and kinetic energy. That means you have to draw a Venn diagram. You will tell the similarities, also how these two energies are similar and how they are different. And I'll be talking about this in the live session also with you guys, at how you're going to draw the Venn diagram. So it's your choice. You can opt for any question and make sure that you do it on your own. So finally, you have your exit ticket. That is just a click away. Don't forget to do it. Meanwhile, I'll discuss with you how a Venn diagram looks like. So here we go. And I'm sure you must have used a Venn diagram before also. Okay, so let's have a look at this Venn diagram. This Venn diagram tells you the difference between whales and fish. So you have drawn two circles that will be intersecting each other. So in the very first part, for suppose I've talked about how we in these two parts, okay, you're going to tell the difference, how the whales are different from the fish and how the fish and whales are similar. Okay, so in the middle part you write the similarities, and in the outer part of the circles you write how they are different. Okay, so let's have a look at this one, that how apples and oranges are different and how they are similar. The middle part talks about the similarity. That means both are fruit, both grow on trees, and how they are different. Apples are red, they have thin peel, and oranges are in orange color and they have a three ring. So this is how you're going to draw a Venn diagram about potential energy and kinetic energy, and in the middle you're going to write how they are similar. So I hope I made myself clear, and then we'll be meeting in a live session also to talk about it further. So have a good day and don't forget to complete your lesson. Do turn in, do attach your work in the Google Classroom and complete the exit ticket. Good luck. Bye bye.